This is my devlog for a level I made in my free time using Unreal Engine's UT editor software for the 2014 version of Unreal Tournament. This game is a first-person multiplayer shooter with multiple guns, power-ups and abilities. The player cannot sprint, however they can crouch, slide, wall run, jump and short hop. I decided to try and make my own first ever deathmatch map within this game to improve my skills as a level designer. Firstly, I created a mood board to figure out what kind of gameplay mechanics and the aesthetic I wanted, and then I remembered in Uncharted 3 there was a whole linear level in the desert where you fought in a run-down and destroyed town, which immediately became my inspiration as Uncharted is single player, and I wanted to see that vision in a multiplayer game. This also allowed me to mess with the verticality of the level, since certain parts of buildings could be broken and destroyed and others could be completely intact. I decided to then create an asymmetrical node map of how the level would look from a bird's eye perspective. Only deathmatch maps in Unreal Tournament could work asymmetrically as it's a free-for-all, so people can't camp in groups. In addition to this, the level could look more unique and have each area become easier to remember since everything has a different shape and size. Next up was deciding what weapons, armour, health and power-ups I would like to add as the spice to my level. To keep the game balanced, I decided to have three main weapons: the link gun, the grenade launcher and the rocket launcher. I figured that since a lot of the map would be outdoors and open, explosive weapons that did AoE damage would complement the level, hence the grenade launcher and rocket launcher. I also wanted to have a short range, mid range and long range weapon, since the enemy could be at any distance and you need to be able to deal with them in multiple areas and situations. After all, if I only included the flak cannon, which is close range, and the enemy was up in a high tower, you cannot realistically kill them at all, which would reduce the fun of the map. Therefore, the grenade launcher is the close range weapon thanks to its use of mines. Then you can swap to the automatic link gun which fires fast enough for mid range, then followed by the rocket launcher at long range since it has homing and can kill you if you fire it too close to your body. I also added a Redeemer nuke, which, whilst being incredibly powerful, can only be accessed by skilled players who not only know where it is located, but also know that to get there you need the jump boots power up, which I added for this reason. And because jump boots allow for further areas of verticality locked behind the need for that specific power up, I made sure that the Redeemer and other massive buffs like the big keg of health that gives you 300 health had no cover to give the rewards some much needed risk. I then placed health and armour inside cover, since if a player needs cover, they most likely are also on low health and don't want to die. I also added small health vials underground to encourage players to use certain paths over other more dangerous paths. My first iteration of the map was a good start, however it had many problems, the first of which being the fact that the mode was team deathmatch. This was a big issue with players, since the map wasn't well designed for people to fight in groups, which led to blue team camping the huge cylindrical tower with jump boots, a shield belt and rocket launchers, all only available in that tower. Other issues included the lack of cover on the ground floor combined with less armour and health, meaning you would die a lot more often, as well as having less spawns. If the game is designed for around 10 players, you should have at least 10 spawns. Unfortunately, my first iteration only had 6 spawns, which led to enemy teams spawning right next to each other. Now this is my new iteration. After organising a Google Forms document with questions relating to the first iteration's level design, I organised 5 to 10 people to play the map and used that feedback from the questionnaire to improve the level. As you can see from the bird's eye view screenshots, the level has slowly improved after the feedback. There is now a lot more cover, more armour and health, alternate routes that can be accessed from the tops of buildings, and the level is now fully textured, and I even added a separate background terrain to add depth to my desert. Then I finally adjusted the timings on power-ups and the nuke both spawn at a slower rate to further balance the level. This level took approximately 1 month to create, plan, edit and adjust from all the feedback, and was achieved by me working on the project for at least 3 hours every day. I believe it is an improvement over my old iteration, however there are still ways I believe I could improve it. Firstly, the indoor areas are very bland, with no objects in the rooms other than lights and occasionally some health. How is the player supposed to know what kind of room they are in? in. If I were to iterate this level a third time, I would turn one room into maybe an armory, which would also add more cover and make each area easier to remember. Then another room could be a dining room, since this is a destroyed town after all. I would also like to mitigate the number of times the player has to move their mouse more than 90 degrees in a direction, to improve the flow of combat and movement, which could be achieved by adjusting the door positions and building angles. In conclusion, level design isn't nearly as simple and clean as people think it is. I believe I have only just begun my journey through level design, but I don't mind since my first few levels aren't going to be perfect. If you look at a game like The Last of Us Part 2, it has an excellent use of linear single-player level design, without making the player feel closed off. Yes, you have a set path that the designers encourage you to use through things like leading lines and cover points, but there is never one route or dead end. Players, despite being in a map that is very much streamlined, still have multiple horizontal and vertical options within the level. The collectibles are also hidden in cabinets and bars, which serve as both cover and a moment of respite. In my opinion, the reason people don't notice the level design is because of how high quality it is. Similar to a well-crafted user interface. Subtle changes like the direction of the lighting or the fog density can dramatically change a level's effectiveness. I hope I explained everything pretty clearly to you all. This has been a Tuxedo Cat Productions project, and thank you for watching.